Oh, hello everyone, and welcome to the video of some of, in my opinion, the best level 120 key-based super attacks as of right now in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. Do keep in mind, this is not going to necessarily be a list of the strongest, although there will be a few top 5s in this video and on this list. So that said, leave your list of your favourite and what you consider to be the best key attacks in Xenoverse 2. And yeah, I'll be interested to read that. In the meantime, before we properly jump into this list, do me a favour, if you enjoy these videos, do make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. About 50% of you watching this exact part right here are not subscribed, so please subscribe and let's get into the list. Starting off this list at number 15, we have the Ki Blast Cannon Super Attack. This is possibly the most disrespectful looking super attacks in Xenoverse 2. Maybe the most disrespectful looking attack in general, including ultimates like Meteor Burst, which is the Turles ultimate, maybe even, was it Appetizing Rush or Excellent Full Course, the Andrew 21 attack, ultimate rather. This attack's fun. It's like you're going for like a Hakai to some extent. Now, if I remember as well, this will do quite a decent amount of damage. I don't think it's anything major, but you can use this to extend and possibly even cause infinite combos. So, with that said, you could consider this to be a bit cheap, but at the same time, a win is a win is a win is a win. Next up, we have Ill Rain. Yes, it's Ill Rain, not Free Rain or Triple Rain or dash dash dash. Long story short, it's because the first letter is an uppercase I and the following two letters are lowercase L's. It's Ill Rain, like here you got Ill Flash, and there's a third one, I forget what it's called. It's a Martian Boo skill, right? A Super Boo attack. So I think this is going to be maybe the one attack on this specific list that not many people are going to necessarily anticipate. Now, this is a skill that is rarely ran. I do tend to run this every once in a while because this is a great skill to really pressure your opponent. 1 bar of ki to activate. The damage is, if I remember, it's okay, but you're not necessarily, and this is going to sound a bit weird, you're not necessarily going to use this skill for the damage. Use it 1 bar of ki, and either after you hit the input again or wait a few seconds, funny enough given the name, 3 pink purpley ki blasts will fire. One of them will fire towards your opponent, typically towards the back. So it's gonna, well, stun them to some extent, but also, if you don't know how this attack works, you might fall for it. It's a great skill. I would highly recommend that you use this, or at the very least, you use it so you know how to deal with it should you run into someone who's running it, either on a custom character or on a character such as Super Boo. Number 13, Shine Shot. Shine Shot, okay, bit of a mouthful there. So yeah, again, much like with the previous skill in this specific list, not that many people tend to run this, at least not on a custom character. This is a very quick skill to activate. Once you use it, and I believe you can change the direction from left to right, you will, swing out the way. So to some extent, this is a pseudo key cancel, to some like really lesser extent, at least. Yeah, I mean, honestly, apart from that, I don't really have too much to say about this. Someone did, I think it's Deoxys who said maybe run this with Ultra Instinct to kind of come up with a bit of a pseudo key stun, or key cancel rather, build maybe, I don't know. Yeah, it's a very fine skill. I just prefer using this every once in a while, hence why it's this far up on this list. Moving on now, next up we have Death Slicer, an absolutely fantastic attack in my opinion. And in my opinion, there's only one downside to this skill, and that is it's not super quick to activate, like a skill like what? Tail Slicer, which do look almost identical, but with different, I guess, like properties, what have you. So yeah, this is a great skill. Startup time isn't the fastest. It's not super slow, but it's not instant like what? I don't know, maybe the Bang Kamehameha, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, with that said, with this skill, you can't block it. And if you tap the input again, it will rebound and it'll try to track the opponent. You can still get out the way of it quite easily. But again, this is also a skill that not many people, for the most part, run. Therefore, you don't really anticipate it or expect it, and you may not even, you just may not know how to actually counter it. This is a great skill, and again, I do highly recommend that you check this skill out, either to add to your moveset or to your strategy, or at the very least, like I've already mentioned as well, just so you know how to deal with it should somebody run it. This is an absolutely fantastic skill. Super Explosive Wave. Yes, the super attack version, not the evasive, even though, at least as of right now, them both identical in name. There's no separate, like difference, like in parentheses, evasive or what have you. Doesn't matter. Yeah, super explosive wave. This is actually a really powerful attack, and it's quite simple, and you can use this as you can use it just like as a normal attack, but I believe if you hold down L1 down, or sorry, L3 down, or whatever it is, it might be R3 off the top of my head, I can't remember, you will do a backflip before you fire it, and I think it does the same amount of damage, or if it is different, it's not by anything substantial. Yeah, again, this is just a really safe bet in terms of attacks. It will do a good amount of damage. I believe this is a future Gohan attack, that's what it's based off of. And of course, you've got, I think, Orange Piccolo or Power Awakening has it as well. And of course, you can use it for your custom characters, also known as a CAC, all that good stuff. Honestly, as well, for this skill, I don't really have that much else to say. It's just a decent attack that does a very good amount of damage, especially with an attack increase limit burst. Moving into the top 10 section of this video now, we now have the Bang Kamehameha. I will be a little bit disappointed if at least a handful of people didn't think I'd put this on this list. This is just a great skill, it really is. So not only is this good for PvP, this is also excellent for racking up points in online raids. You can do, if you run the proper build and you just use this skill as the only damaging skill, so like ultimate charge as well, within 3 to 4 raids, you should get, at least 100,000 points to get all of the rewards from a raid, even though for the most part, from 50,000, if you get 50,000 points in most raids, you'll then have everything worthwhile. But then going from 50,000 to 100,000, sometimes you'll get an extra Super Soul or additional TP medals and stuff like that. But this is just a really powerful attack, and it only takes 1 bar of key to activate, and you can get it very, very early on. I forget exactly, but you get it from progressing through the Xenoverse 2 story mode, then by purchasing it, then by purchasing it from the skill shop in Canton City, home of the Time Patrol. Yeah, and once you use it, hit the input again, and you'll then bend. Now, keep in mind, if you use it and then you bend it, it's not always going to reach the opponent. It just really does depend on the angle. But honestly, this is a skill that I would say is absolutely essential. It's that good of a skill, in my opinion. I'm tempted to replace Soaring Fist on my main build with this, even though my main build is a Strike Saiyan and I have no points in key skills. It's just one of those skills that you don't tend to... Well, you do tend to anticipate it because it does get used somewhat more often than skills such as Death Slicer and other skills on this list. But man, this skill is absolutely phenomenal. Sudden Storm? Don't mind if I do. Okay, so yeah, Sudden Storm, great key super attack. You get this from, I think it's the 2nd or 3rd mentor training with Turles, so technically a free skill. 2 bars key to use. And this does really good damage, actually. It's one of, and I think, if I remember as well, this also does quite a bit of stamina damage if you try to block it. But off the top of my head, I can't really remember. But yeah, I mean, honestly, this skill, this is one of those skills that it does take 2 bars of key to use, but I think this is like the most fair skill that requires a certain amount of key, if that makes sense. Like, if this took 1 bar of key to activate, it would be overpowered. But if it took 3 bars of key, for example, to activate, then it will probably be not worth it. But for 2 bars of key, the amount of damage that you do on it, and given that this skill also has a little bit of tracking as well, you really can't go wrong with this attack. Again, the only downside, if you can even consider it a downside, is that this is one of those attacks that instead of just taking 1 bar of key to use, it takes 2. So it's like between, to some extent, a super attack and an ultimate, because most supers take 1 bar of ki and the vast majority of ultimates require 3 bars of ki. We now have yet another, or rather a second, Kamehameha base skill, that is the Big Bang Kamehameha super attack. Okay, so with this one, there's a bit of a parenthesis I should put here, that being that it's only when you fully charge it and therefore warp if you are in a Super Saiyan form, or if you use it on, for example, Gogeta, who now, well, recently has been changed. So Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta can warp this skill, specifically if you fully charge it up on him. Great skill. This used to be one of those skills, and it still is, that you could just use to grind, you know, missions, to get TP medals. But this does, if you can fully charge it, it does a ton of damage. It really does. And the charging of it will actually act as a sort of shield for, like, weak ki blasts. I think maybe even, like, attacks like a normal Kamehameha will kind of, not nullify it, but it just won't connect to you charging it up if you are charging it up. That doesn't make sense. But yeah, use this in any Super Saiyan form, and although it does take a long time to charge, if you know what you're doing, like maybe a stamina break or a swing kick, you can pretty much charge it up fully without too much trouble. It's a great skill. Number 7, we have a DLC skill, Reverse Launcher. I love this attack. This is one of my go-to skills on my ki-based Saiyan. Ponent Crumbosh, an anagram of Burcol's Phantom. Oh yes. Now again, this is also, even though this is a ki skill, you could probably run this on a strike build, or just like a build with like really bad ki, because it's one of those attacks that it's gonna, well, what you can see right now, right? Like, you'll fire the attack, and even if it misses, you'll teleport. Actually, I forget if it misses. If you miss, I do, off the top of my head, I just forget. If it misses, you'll still warp or teleport to your opponent and then shoot the second one. So if you, with this attack, if you know what it is, you can block it and then turn your character around to block or even perfect block it. And I've done that a few times before. But this is a really, really fancy skill. I love it. If you break your opponent's guard, they are going to be in a lot of trouble. And you could kind of spam this attack. It does good damage as well. But again, the only downside, I guess, to some extent, is that this is a DLC skill, or rather, it's from... Actually, I forget if it's from a DLC payload quest, or if it's from Bojack's mentor training, because it's a Bojack skill. But again, this is a really fantastic skill. And once again, I would highly recommend that you use this, you know, because you may find a new skill that you like, or you use it so you know how to, you know, prepare for it should it be used against you in the future. Up next, we have Handy Cannon. Now, this would probably be a few places higher if it wasn't for the fact that this is a very short range attack. The further away you use it, the further the spread, I guess, of the Handy Cannon ki blast. But if you use it right next to your opponent, like after a basic combo, it's all, you know, all of it's going to land. It's very, very, very fast to activate. 1 bar of ki and well, maybe not phenomenal, but excellent damage. Great skill, but again, you need to be really close to your opponent. The further away you are, the longer I guess like the bigger the spread of the attack will be. But yeah, great skill. Number 5, we have yet another Kamehameha skill, the Divine Kamehameha. Now, this does great damage, and this will actually go through super armor. So if your opponent's got super armor and you're running this, just use it. You know, it's a cool looking attack, especially if you can activate the, I guess, like the jump, or what is it, like the twirl, not twirl, the sliding part of it, like what Goku does against Kefla in the Dragon Ball Super anime, in the Tournament of Power. This, in terms of, I don't know if it's the strongest Kamehameha Super in terms of damage. If not, it's definitely in the top, I'd say probably the top 3. This is just all round a really good skill, but do keep in mind, you do need, I believe it's 2 bars of ki to use, and for some reason, off the top of my head, I forget if you actually have to have stamina to activate this. I think you do, so if that's the case, then that's like, I guess, like a downside, so you can't use it as a pseudo evasive should you get your guard broken, because again, you can use it to, like, once you use it, as you can probably see on screen right now, you can teleport and all that, or vanish, or have you, to kind of trick your opponent. I'm just a little bit, not disappointed, well, more so surprised that not many people tend to run this, surprisingly enough. Sure, it's ran quite a bit, but not as often as you probably should see it because it's a great skill and you get it from the TP Medal store. We are almost in the top 3 now, but for the number 4 slot for this list, we have the Consecutive Energy Blast. This is a skill that technically you can unlock. Let me try that again. This is a skill that technically you can unlock from the absolute very beginning in Xenoverse 2. I believe you have to pick on the option when you make a character of, I like to keep distance and blast them from afar. I believe you get it from that, but you also may get it from the third option, the keep it balanced. Yeah, this, and if not, you get it. I think you can buy it very cheaply after you do a few story mode missions from the skill shop in Conton City. This attack, even though you can get it from the very start, it takes 1 bar of ki to use. It's fairly quick to activate, and it does a ton of damage, and it has a bit of tracking. Nothing too major, like you can easily get out of the way with it. But this is a skill that, again, even though it's from the very start of the game, technically, it's one of the best in the game, which is, I mean, that may be why they put it at the very start, to give you a bit of help as you know, if you're brand new to the game. But this is just a fantastic skill in every way, shape, and form possible. And number 3 is actually a split between Ki Explosion and the Mighty Explosive Wave. The difference between these two skills is that the Mighty Explosive Wave cannot be prolonged, and naturally because of that, Ki Explosion can be prolonged for a certain amount of time depending on how much ki you have. Honestly, both of these are fantastic. If you go for Mighty Ki Explosion, again, it will instantly take, I think it's 1 bar of ki. Yeah, it's 1 bar of ki, and it will stop automatically. Whereas, again, Ki Explosion, again, this is Ki Explosion, not Super Ki Explosion, the ultimate. But Ki Explosion can be used by, I don't know if it's necessarily worth it after a certain point, because again, if you're going to run Ki Explosion, you more than likely also have unlocked Super Ki Explosion. So I'd really suggest either running Ki Explosion or Super Ki Explosion, or, I mean, I say that, run any one of these skills, don't run 2 of them. That's why this is also kind of like 2 in 1 here. I know I've rambled a little bit. These are both great skills, but I'm kind of similar to other skills. Take your pick. Number 2, we have the final Kamehameha super attack for this specific list, and that is the times 10 Kamehameha. I want to say this is the 3rd, 4th, or 5th strongest ki super attack in the entire game, and for good reason. I think this does do more damage than certain ultimate attacks, and this is a super attack which requires, unsurprisingly enough, 2 bars of ki to use rather than the standard 1 bar of ki, or 3 bars if it's an ultimate, right? Yeah, I mean, with that said, it does take a fair bit to charge up fully. If you're in a Super Saiyan form, it will teleport and warp, but if you just use this instantly without charging it up after a knockback, you're laughing. It's a great skill, it really is. It's one of the most used in the game, and certainly one of, if not the most used Kamehameha attack, even including certain Kamehameha ultimates such as the Super Kamehameha, the times 100 Big Bang Kamehameha, and other skills such as the Super Black Kamehameha, both versions including the Rose version. This is a phenomenal attack. It really is. Highly recommend you use it. And number 1, the best ki-based super attack as of right now in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, and in my opinion, Blaster Ball. I love this attack. I really do. Now, there are a couple of downsides to this, but I think it makes up because this is actually, again, as of right now, and with the proper build and all that good stuff, this is the strongest ki-based super attack. It might be the strongest super attack in general. I don't know, because you've got a few weird strike skills such as Dynamite Kick and Neo Wolfang Fist, but with the proper build, I think this is the strongest because this can be prolonged depending on how much ki you have. So with that said, the 2 downsides are that, again, DLC skill, but if you've got the DLC, it doesn't matter. DLC 6, the extra pack, no, sorry, DLC 7, extra pack 3, the DLC that added Kefla, because it's the Kefla skill, and Super Baby Vegeta 2, so there's that there. But the other downside is that it can be a little bit tricky to maintain. So assuming you got Max Ki, Limit Burst, Blue Evolution, or Beast, or what have you, Turn Golden, what have you, you need to repeatedly tap the input over and over again. And even though I can do it quite easily, sometimes you just mess it up, and if you mess it up, it stops. But the problem is that you'll fire more of the, I guess, blaster ball ki blasts the longer that you do this, until you're just firing like dozens every couple of seconds, right? But man, this is a skill that I have won lots of fights that I probably would have lost normally, because I was able to successfully use this attack. It's the best in the game. It really is.